Without playing to a click track, you've got that real sort of push and pull as well with your tempo can waver a bit and things can go. I guess you get people's more natural rhythm of how they play. Some people play ahead of the beat, some people are slightly behind, and I'd never toured, never played with Psycroptic, so it was pretty fucking hectic really when I sort of look back on it.
Yeah. Well, how old were you at the time?
I would have been 21, maybe 22. You always dreamed about it as a kid, you know, being in a touring band and this is all I want to do, but you never actually believe that you're going to get it, especially being a kid from Tasmania.
Well, Jason Peppiatt, welcome to Into the Necrosphere. Welcome back, I should say. How's it going, my man?
Yeah, good, really good. Excited for... all the singles been coming out, the videos, feedback's been great, and I've been on non-stop with doing the press, so it's been cool.
Well, I was going to say, it's very exciting, this side project that you've been playing with, like Subtropic, Psycroptic, I think they're called. We can get to them in a second, but I wanted to talk about your main band, first of all. New Permafog EP, mate. That was that took me by surprise. And my God, does that sound fucking fantastic.
Yeah, we kind of kept it pretty quiet that we were working on it. So we'd been at it for a while. A bunch of the songs were written, probably a couple of years ago now. And we were just kind of, we just decided, fuck it, let's get cracking on it. We recorded it, everything ourselves. So we were on zero budget. So we did it with, like a electronic drum kit for it. And we just chipped away at it. So it came up good, was nice and intense. So I think we've sort of found our feet a bit more now with what we want to do. Like, you know, the first album I think was us kind of like, I don't know, I guess it was a bit of a tribute to, you know, all your classic Norwegian stuff and, you know, all the old school black metal that we all love. Whereas, you know, the new EP, I think we were just kind of like, all right, we've got to, you know, set our own style. We can't just be a tribute band essentially. And yeah, we added a lot more death metal into it as well. So it's sort of, I guess it's more sort of along the lines of, you know, your Zyklon, Merkskog, that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, it's cool.
There's definite influences of those bands that I can hear. I can still hear that Nadinger influence quite clearly, which I love. And when I say it's an influence, I mean it really is an influence. It's not like you guys are trying to copy them. But I think you're being potentially harsh on the first album. The first album took away Into the Necrosphere top 30 of 23 honors, mate. For an unsigned band.
we got one of the big accolades there.
I know. You get the biggest, some would say.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember if it was me or Ryan were listening to it first, and we heard it come up, and we were like, what the fuck? We didn't think we were going to get put in the spotlight that hard.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was deserved. I thought that album was absolutely incredible, and the more I went back and listened to it, the more I kind of kept coming back to the same question. Why the fuck is that band not signed? Like, have you guys tried to shop it around? Have you had conversations with any record labels?
No, we want it. I don't know. We're kind of a band that if someone hits us up and says, hey, we want to release CDs or vinyls of your EP or your album or something, and we'd definitely be keen for it, but we're kind of like, we're not real keen on the idea of, you know, having a label and having to actually do shit at certain times and stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Like the first album took us 5 years to do. The EP was a lot quicker, but you know, I mean, it's only 4 songs, and so I don't know. And we just want to kind of keep it fun. We want to work at our own pace when we want to work. I mean, Psycroptic keeps me busy for fucking huge chunks of time. So, you know, it's just nice to have no pressure and just be kicking it old school. You know, we're a band that we hit the jam room every week, just about, and lots of local shows and shit. So I don't know, maybe down the track, if a decent offer comes in, we would potentially, entertain the idea, but it's not something that's, we're recording on basically zero budget. We do everything ourselves. And so we're kind of like, do we fucking really need it at the moment?
There is a freedom to that level of independence. I mean, I've mentioned this before. I've had opportunities to get sponsors in for the podcast. I'm obviously not, there's no record deals or anything like that. Podcast one is lining into the Necrosphere anytime soon. But even the trappings of sponsorship, I shied away from, because I appreciate people being interested enough to want to sponsor the show. But once you get tied to something where there's a obligation of some sort, and I don't care whether it's, in my case, whether it's not saying what I want to say about some of the bands on a particular record label, or, people in certain high-profile bands, I want to be able to speak my mind.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
at the end of the day, I'm doing this as a hobby. This isn't a job. I've got enough rules I need to follow in my day job where I don't want to be tied down to anything. It kind of, Psycroptic, and my earlier joke aside, Psycroptic is such a massive entity now. I would imagine it's actually quite nice to have Permafog as the complete and utter antithesis of that.
Exactly. And that's, if the other guys in Permafog decide that they want to, push things further or whatever, I'm all for that. But I'm kind of at the point where I really just enjoy playing in a local band, kicking it old school, no pressure, no responsibility. It's good for me as well. I'm kind of just the guitarist in that band, so I can sort of sit back at the back of the stage and don't have to be the one talking to the audience and that stuff. So I absolutely loved being doing the Permafog thing the way we have been at this stage. It's just, I don't know, it's more back to the roots for me. How bands used to be for me back when I was like 17, 18 years old, in the jam room all the time. And, half the time you mightn't even play that much. You're just hanging out, drinking beers and talking shit, It's what it's kind of all about. Psycroptic's grown into such a different entity now, and we're also spread out across the world, I only see Dave or Todd when we're touring, really, and stuff. So it's nice to have that, the organic, old school style of doing things as well. So I've really embraced that with Permafog.
There's a lot of magic that gets created in the band room as well. The conversations I've had over the last 18 months, and it started with my interview that I did with David Gray from Akakaka, where he was talking about his preference, being for the band room, and he doesn't really like being in bands where the writing isn't taking place in the band room. And I think there's two things, like whenever we talk about, nowadays, how music sounds so anesthetized, it sounds, clinical. I think there's two things that are leading contributors to that. At least this is my theory, and I'm keen to get your take on it. One, not enough bands are writing in the band room. So that spontaneous back and forth chemistry, that creative energy, that's missing now. It's just one person. Secondly, because everybody's playing to a click track, which is fine, but Patrick from The Haunted made the very good point that if you don't play to the click track, you've got those little millisecond pauses and almost like breathing. You've got that breathing space in the music. And you might, the untrained ear might not immediately be able to pin down why they have that breathing space, but they know it's there. And it's got that slightly livelier feel to it as a result.
Yeah, and it's got, without playing to a click track, you've got that real sort of push and pull as well with your tempo can waver a bit and things can go. I guess you get people's more natural rhythm of how they play. Some people play ahead of the beat, some people are slightly behind, and whereas when you're on a click track as well, you just don't get that. You just lock straight into it. With Psycroptic, everything's. I think there's a beauty to both methods with it. Like with Psycroptic, we're very much a Joe writes it, sends it out, and we build it up on top of it. But it's that sort of band where everything's. It's a band where it's about precision playing. Whereas you get a rock and roll band or something playing to a click and you lock it to a grid, it sounds like dog shit. A lot of black metal, I think, is the same as well. It's got to have that little bit of wobble to it. And that's with Permafog when we record as well. We try to, it's not so much, so much dropping in when you're recording. It's not just record a slight little block and then cut and paste and all that stuff. It's like we try to play as much of the song as we can until you either fuck up or your arm feels like it's about to fall off because you're fucking tremolo picking across, all the strings. So, yeah, and we kind of do that with Permafog because we do like getting that little bit of natural slop to it as well. And it's same with like Lenny with the way he sings and stuff. A lot of the time, he'll get to the end of a take and there'll be bits where he does sort of wobble around with the tempo and stuff, but it's like it creates those nice little nuances as well. So it's kind of like, no, we'll leave that. It sounds great. Your voice sounded good, and I mean, you look at a lot of the old school stuff, things like Old Immortal and shit like that. That shit's wobbling around all over the place. But if you pinned that to a grid and to a click track, it'd probably sound pretty rubbish, I reckon.
Well, so, you and I are both admirers of Battles in the North.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that album recorded to a click track? I mean, it's just not the same. And I do feel like, you mentioned those nuances. A lot of times I don't even necessarily think it's what we hear that we remember so much as how we felt when we heard it. Like if you think about the break on Sacrificial Suicide, damn to hell.
Yeah.
It's the simplest, easiest riff. I mean, fucking Child can write that riff, with 3 days worth of guitar lessons. But it's how you feel when you hear it for the first time. It's just like, 100%. Absolute fist in the air, rebellious, anger. It's brilliant, but it's 100% about the feeling.
And all that old Deicide stuff. I mean, most of the old school death metal is like that. It's all got this certain sort of magical feel, and it's because it's guys playing to the absolute edge of their ability, and they're only just hanging in, and it sounds like it could fall apart at any minute, but somehow it just doesn't quite. And that's, I don't know, that's what kind of gives it that sound of chaoticness.
One thing I will definitely say, if we pivot to Psycroptic, and actually just before we do that, I pulled up the list of where Permafog sat, by the way, in the year that the first record came out. Number 10. So that year, so this was 2024, you had Ecclese at number 1, Werewolves at number 2, Horner at number 3, Panzerfaust at number 4.
Fucking Haley beat me.
Inquisition at number 5, High on Fire at number 6, Ulcerate at number 7, My Dying Bride at number 8, Holder at number 9, Permafog at number 10.
Fucking hell.
That's quite an audience to be in, and you beat out 3 absolutely fucking phenomenal Finnish black metal bands: Bythos, True Black Dawn, and Nightshall Drape Us, on my list anyway.
Bythos is fucking killer.
Yeah. Well, Jesus, you talk about like heavyweight dudes. And Bythos is like the heaviest of the heavyweight Finnish black metal guys, or Finnish.
It's a singer from Behexen, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it right.
Well, Spellgoth is it the singer from Behexen? It's so Spellgoth is in it for sure. Wrath is in it for sure. And yes, it is. What's Sam? And as a matter of fact, no, I'm talking shit. Nightshall Drape Us is Wrath and Wrath and Spellgoth. It is the singer from Behexen in Bythos.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Fucking Behexen.
I just had to check myself on that. But as we pivot into Psycroptic, I think one thing, you were talking about, everything's about precision, and you guys have always had that. I mean, all the way back to the first Psycroptic album I ever heard was Scepter of the Ancients, and I think I listened to that because Alex Webster had been talking about you guys in an interview, saying it is amazing. So I heard that, and it was like
early. Yeah.
You were going to say, like, was that something where, or is that, I'm not the first person that you hear that from, I'm guessing.
No. No. It's I I mean, that was always our reputation sort of back in the early days. Back when I first joined the band, I was like 21, 22 years old, and the conversation was always around, how tight we were, how fast we were, and how fucking young we were. I mean, obviously the age, we've aged a lot now, but, we have tried to really keep within that, being a tight, locked-in band. I mean, there's still mistakes in there in our live show, but we try to keep it very minimal.
At that age, when you heard that Alex Webster had given you the cosign, how did that feel? I mean, you must have been completely blown away.
It was fucking wild back in those days. I mean, we were getting a lot of props from a lot of those bands. Terrence and Derek from Suffocation, absolutely fucking freaking out on us. And a lot of bands, I think, were requesting that we go out, and support with them. Like Black Dahlia Murder, they were handpicking us to go out with them, and they were really championing us. Cannibal Corpse had us out a bunch of times. Cataclysm were always singing high praises for us. So, I mean, it was fucking wild. I mean, that point in our lives, things were moving really fucking fast. It's, it's an exciting time in anyone's career, when we went and did a European tour with Dismember, and then, it was kind of all on from there, and we were like, fuck, we're at the point now where the dudes we're hanging out with are the dudes we were listening to when we were in high school. Like, we went out with Obituary and Macabre, and we became friends with the guys from Macabre, who were like one of the biggest influences for me and Cam, our old bass player, like back when we were like fucking 12 years old. Yeah, when it gets like that, it's fucking crazy.
It was also at that time, I think anybody who's younger that's listening to this, or even, people where, maybe some senility has set in and they can't remember, it was such an unlikely thing to happen for an Australian band. Like just from your perspective, from the country, can you just kind of sketch out for people what the landscape and the prospects were? What was the landscape of Australian metal like at the time, and what were the prospects for a band coming out of Tasmania to be able to go out, play Europe, be talked about by all these bigger bands? I mean, this was like, internet was in its infancy, relatively speaking. It was just it was a real anomaly from my perspective. But yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, back in 2004, I mean, the scene was really good. We had like the black thrash scene out there was pretty wild at that stage. You had all your Destroyer 666, Gospel of the Horns, and all that sort of stuff was doing really well. And those bands were doing really well in Europe. But, aside from that, when you sort of got to, more death metal stuff and tech stuff and the sort of thing we were doing, there wasn't a great deal that was, getting out of the country then. And it was basically, Dave Haley is a man that if he puts his mind to something, he's going to figure out how to do it. So, but I mean, the big thing was, I mean, we had a lot of help. Like, Dave got really good with finding grant money and stuff like that. So we had a lot of help from the Arts Tasmania grant program. But,
did they know what they were funding?
Yeah, they did. And like that. That's one thing down here in Tasmania. We've always had great support from, the greater public, really. I mean, the Arts Council down here has always backed us well. They've always given us funding where possible. I remember I had just on the regular, nightly news, they came and met me at my day job and interviewed me about Psycroptic. We were playing there's a festival down here called Dark Mofo, which kind of takes over the whole city. And me and Joe were sort of in the promo for it. And that got to the point where there was like life-size or bigger, like there was like billboards on the side of buildings of me and Joe and stuff like that, for that festival. Wow. So it's pretty wild. I mean, it's obviously slowed down a lot now, but Yeah, I mean, back in those days, we had a lot of support from the Tasmanian government and, and the Arts Council and stuff. So it was good, and that sort of helped. I mean, we had to fund a lot of stuff ourselves, though. I mean, obviously, they weren't just handing out money aimlessly for us to just, throw into whatever tours, but, they'd back us a bit here and there. But man, we basically we just had a lot of belief in ourselves, and, there was, probably the first 10 to 12 years of me being in the band, I don't think the band turned a single profit. Everything got rolled in, and we were living like shit on the road. But, we believed in what we were doing enough that we just kept pushing.
Mm-hmm. The Dismember show, that was your first tour abroad, your first tour outside of Australia.
That was my first ever show I ever did with Psycroptic.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty
opening for Dismember.
Yeah, I was absolutely shitting myself. I'd never done a live show with the band before, so it was in Germany. I can't remember what city, but yeah. So my first Psycroptic show was in Germany.
What do you remember about the? I mean, I know you said you were nervous, but what do you remember about before taking to the stage, being on stage, coming off? How did that feel? I
remember I was fucking anxious as fuck going on, because I think I'd been rehearsing for 3 months with the band, so I was only a session to start with, never been outside Australia, and here I was thrust into basically living my dream out with Dismember, one of my favourite bands at the time, and yeah, absolutely shitting myself. Took to the stage, settled in real quick, and absolutely fucking had a blast. And then afterwards, feeling that kind of relief that, right, I didn't fuck it. I can do this, and let's fucking go. Let's keep this rolling. Because I think we were out there for about 5 or 6 weeks. So yeah, I mean, I'd never toured, never played with Psycroptic, so it was pretty fucking hectic, really, when I sort of look back on it.
Yeah. Well, how old were you at the time?
I would have been 21, maybe 22. So just a kid.
Mm. And how big of a role had Dismember played in your musical upbringing? Just to kind of help folks understand the gravity of being in that position.
Well, I mean, you think of at the time Dreaming in Red? Mm. That video that was on one of the Nuclear Blast videos.
That was just the beginning 3, mate.
It was on that, was it? Yeah,
yeah. It's Skin Father and Dreaming in Red. I think it was Dreaming in Red.
Yeah. So I remember those clips were on it. So I think Cam, our original bass player, he had Indecent Obscene. And I mean, fuck. What was not to love about that band at that time, especially? And, just because, I mean, the internet wasn't a fucking big thing back then. There was no social media. So it was kind of like a band that you'd been watching videos of for years. And then all of a sudden, so the first 2 shows of the tour got cancelled for some reason. The promoter pulled them because I think ticket sales were not good because of a clash or something like that. And we ended up getting taken out for dinner. And it ended up just being a total fucking booze fest. And I remember I was sitting there with Matty Karki and drinking with him, and he was as cool as fuck. And I was just kind of like, this is so fucking surreal, It's like, it's the dudes I've been watching on that video over and over and over and over for fucking, since I was probably 15 years old. And here I am getting hammered with him in Germany before we, start a tour with him. I mean, yeah, it was surreal. It was unheard of, and it was basically, I was getting to a point in my life where I never thought I'd be. Mm-hmm. You always dreamed about it as a kid, being in a touring band, and this is all I want to do, but you never actually believe that you're going to get there, especially being a kid from Tasmania.
Well, again, this is the thing I would stress to anybody who's listening to this, who's based in the US or based in Europe. The one thing, and I often feel like this is why I get on so well with my Australian brethren, is because we came to music from a similar place, in the sense that we were very removed from it. So we were admiring a lot of these bands we're talking about from a distance. To us, when I got a bootleg of Death Is Just the Beginning 3, I absolutely wore that thing out. That was the greatest find, one of the most influential things to ever happen to me. But it was a huge deal just having access to a music video by Sinister. It wasn't something that you could see on television. It wasn't something you could walk into a music store, certainly not in South Africa, and just buy. So, being in the position that you were in, knowing that you're opening for one of those bands, it's mind-blowing. How did you, if I think about, and this is obviously completely different, but if I think about being in a very high pressure situation, my day job, if I'm in a high pressure situation, there's always that challenge of staying locked into the zone and not kind of getting that split second ahead of yourself where you're starting to overthink what's happening and you're starting to become too aware of how the audience is responding. And I if I think about my day job, that would be in a presentation meeting or, big pitch to a client or something like that. It's very difficult to kind of keep locked in and stay centered and be in that space where you're doing your best work and not give in to the temptation to start overthinking, become too self-aware, etc.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would have been something that you would have wrestled with, definitely on that first show.
Oh, definitely. But you kind of, I don't know, with music, if you're doing it right a lot of the time, you can just let go of everything and it just happens, and it is one of those things. You got to trust your instincts. You've got to trust that I've practiced this enough and I do know it. And because you do get in those moments where if you do start thinking about it, and that's when you fuck up. And then you start questioning yourself, fuck, where am I in the song? Oh, shit. And you can make wrong changes and stuff. So you do have to just try and get into that moment with it and just let the music take you away, I guess.
Have you ever been in that situation where things have fallen apart on stage?
Oh, fuck yeah.
What was the one that sticks in your mind the most?
Oh, we've had a few great ones. We had one, we were in Sydney playing a venue called the Gaelic Club. I got a feeling we were there with Behemoth, playing with them, and this would have been fucking early days. This was probably on the Demigod tour or something. And we were playing Colour of Sleep, and I don't know what happened, but everybody just fell apart and lost where they were at. And then it probably was that one of us made a mistake, but then everyone started second guessing themselves. And it got to the point where it was train wrecking so hard in the middle of a song. And no one knew who'd fucked up and no one knew who was right. And so no one knew how to get back. It was all four of us in a different place that I just had to turn around. I just started laughing my fucking head off. And I'm like, just stop, fucking stop, And we had to actually stop and start again.
I've seen that happen like once or twice before. I mean, I think
everyone's got a train wreck at once.
Yeah, I think it's the better thing to do if you get so
I know
discombobulated. It is better to just put your hands up and go, "Hey guys, we're gonna have a do over on that one."
We are human. Yeah, and so I mean that's the only time I think we've train wrecked one like that. It was funny. I actually saw Emperor doing In the Night Side Eclipse a few years ago, and they train wrecked. I think it was in Iron the Black Wizards. Like it was falling apart, and you could see. Well, I think Trim came in with a fill slightly behind, and then they just couldn't catch up and couldn't pull it together. And me and my friend were just there watching, going, fuck, they're going to train wreck it. They're going to have to stop. This is fucking, who gets to see this? This is probably a once in a career thing, and we're going to get to see it. And you could see Isan turned around and he was all embarrassed. He's like, oh my God. And I'm thinking, just stop, just make a fucking joke about it. And because he started being like, this never happens. And he was all embarrassed. I'm like, fuck, dude, you've just got to own it and have a laugh about it, But yeah, it's crazy when it happens. But, everyone does it at some point. It's just, as soon as you get up in your own head with it. And I mean, I've had times where I've just totally just lost my spot and I've had to stop and just just leave a few bits until you can catch up or something. But yeah, it's when the whole band does it simultaneously that it's a fucking hilarious disaster.
The thing that I was taught to remind myself of, and it is very helpful, is you always need to remember in situations like that, you are not the main actor in somebody else's movie. No one is watching you, and at the slightest mistake that you make, they make a mental note and they replay it in their mind over and over again. I can't believe Jason did that. How dare he shouldn't make that mistake? It is. Yeah. So whatever you did, I mean, unless you fucking dropped your trousers and started whacking it midway through a song, no one's going to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I always kind of approach it as well. I think I've watched that many bands that we're touring with, and they get off stage and they're like, "Oh my god, I played like shit," and you're like, "Fucking where?" I didn't hear any. I fucking hear Dave Haley say it all the time and get off stage. He's like, played like dog shit, and I'm like, fucking not that I heard, dude. And I've got you in my fucking in-ears, like loud as fuck. It's me, like in my in-ears, it's basically me and Dave on stage.
I don't think it's possible for him to play like shit. I'm sorry, but I would call bullshit on that without even having seen the show.
I know, and it's kind of like one of those things. I mean, I think a lot of people are harder on themselves than others.
Did I tell you about the conversation I had with Eric from the Amenta when?
I think we spoke about that.
And I said to him, is Dave someone who's real? Is he a drum machine?
Yeah,
because I didn't know at the time, of all the other bands that Dave was in, and he was like, no, Dave is real. He's not a machine.
Oh man, no.
How did your entry into Psycroptic happen? Because, you're so synonymous with the band now. I think sometimes a couple of folks might forget that, you weren't on the first, it was the first two albums that you were on.
First two, yeah. So basically there was the European tour with Dismember got offered. The band wanted to do it. The original vocalist, Chalky, didn't want to do it. He had some personal shit going on, and I think there was a bit of growing tension between him and the band anyway. And so I got asked if I wanted to go, because me and Cam, the original bass player, we sort of grew up together from high school. So we'd played in high school bands together. I was really good friends with Dave and Joe. I was always hanging around with the band regardless. And so when it came up that they needed a singer to go to Europe, they were kind of like, "Do you reckon you could do it? Would you be keen?" I'm like, "Well, I'm definitely keen. I don't know if I can do it, but I'll give it a red hot go. If you guys want to have me in a rehearsal room 5 times a week until between now and the tour, like, I'm sure I can get it happening. But obviously we just got to work hard at it." And they were like, "Yep, cool." So I did a couple of rehearsals with them, like learnt a bunch of the stuff. They were stoked. And we went on that tour, and by the time we got to the end of that tour, I think that I just gelled with the members in the band better than Chalky, the original vocalist. So, they decided to part ways with him and get me in full time.
They didn't set up the octagon and say, "Okay, you guys have to fight for your fight for your spot."
Well, I think the fucking fans, like back in the early days, would have liked to have seen that. It was a weird thing after like Symbols of Failure was released. There was a real, Jason versus Chalky, bullshit going on online, which I always found really funny. Like it was like this, the fans had this weird rivalry between me and Chalky, the original vocalist. But the funny thing was, me and him were mates. It was a little bit tense when the switchover happened and stuff, but we were actually playing in a band still at the time, like me and the original Psycroptic vocalist. So there was this weird fucking rivalry that I think the fans were trying to get going between us, which was just fucking stupid.
But that's kind of par for the course when it comes to death metal.
It is, yeah.
I mean, you'll remember David Vincent and Steve Tucker, Chris Bond, and George Corpse Grinder.
Yeah, it's the way it goes. But I mean, when I joined the band, we had Symbols of Failure was basically written and recorded straight away. And then we were just hitting the road nonstop as soon as I joined. Like, we were at that point in our lives where it was, the original members of Psycroptic, that's all that those three wanted to do. And it was all I wanted to do. And we were at that age where it was like, you don't have that many responsibilities. And it's just what you'd always dreamed of since you were a kid. So you're like, fuck, this opportunity is put in front of me, and I'd be a fucking idiot if I didn't just go for it.
And again, to our point about the number of bands in Australia that were making it to that level, you could maybe count on one hand. And when I say bands, I mean metal bands. But there was Destroyer 666, but in part that was also because they, and I correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I was about to say they moved to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So who else?
Mortal Sin used to do a bit. But yeah, some of the thrash bands, there was Hobbs Angel of Death. They used to do a little bit over in Europe, but
nothing to the level you guys are doing.
Yeah, and I mean, Destroyer were doing a lot, but they were based in the Netherlands, so it was basically them touring Europe was equivalent of them just doing local tours, like us doing Australian tours by that point. Gospel of the Horns, they used to get out and do quite a bit in Europe. They're another band that actually, I think they went out with Dismember the year before we did in Europe, because I remember when we were touring with them, the Dismember guys were already kind of familiar with a little bit of the Australian humour and, the total just fuckwittery of us drinking, So they were kind of versed in that already because they'd already been exposed to it with those guys. But yeah, I don't think there was a lot more. I mean, it's not like now where, I suppose when you look at more probably deathcore thing, Australia's really renowned for that stuff now. You got, your Parkway Drives, obviously, The Loud Is Murder, Aversion's Crown, all those sort of bands. There's a lot of bigger ones of those, but yeah, there's still not, like when you sort of get into the extreme stuff like what we are, I don't think there's still a great deal of bands that are touring out on the international stage as much as what we are.
Well, again, and I think not playing to the same size audiences either. That's 100% for sure. Observant and The Inherited Repression, those are two of my favorite Psycroptic albums, and they came straight after you joining. Was that by coincidence? Did you tell the guys to buck up their ideas?
Well,
I think we can make a couple of modifications to this song if you
Well, Observant. So when we did Symbols of Failure, the first album I did with them, I feel like that was kind of an album where we had something to prove a little bit, because coming off Scepter of the Ancients, the lineup change, we were like, I don't know, we were trying to show that we were the fastest, most technical, intense band in the fucking world, Like, we were young men full of testosterone with something to prove. But then I think after that album, I was sort of given a bit more free rein when it came to Observant. They were like, all right, take your, run with your own ideas a bit more. And that's when I think on that album, I sort of threw the more, I don't know, people call it my like hardcore vocal style. I think it was more influenced by the likes of, Phil Anselmo, Max Cavalera, that sort of stuff, the sort of more shouty stuff. And I sort of had an idea with that, but I in my mind, I'm like, it's either going to be loved or it's going to fall really flat with the other guys, but I want to try it. And I was sort of in the studio with Joe, and I was like, I've got this idea. It's sort of more of a, Max Cavalera shout sort of vocals for doing some of the choruses and bits. I'll give it a whirl and you tell me what you think. And I did it, and Joe was like, I fucking love it. We need to throw that in everywhere in here. It's just different. It's unique. It's, it's you. So I was like, all right, cool. And so we did it. It went well. We put it in on the live show. And then I think with the next album, Joe had sort of had the idea a bit more, we could wanting to push the sort of thrash groove avenue, and get a bit more, songwriting, a bit more verse, chorus, verse, and a bit more catchy and drop the technicality a bit. And that's when I went into the studio with it. And I started doing some of the, the stereotypical like brutal death metal vocals, and Joe was like, no, I think we just go with the more shouty, old school thrash sort of vocals for it. And he pushed me more to just go down that direction, because I think that's sort of what he'd written the album a bit more with that in mind. So, and I guess that was kind of the turning point as well, where, my vocals were more of a unique thing, love it or hate it, but that's what they were. And I think Joe was just kind of like, let's use this unique point, in our songs.
They also added, I think, an extra layer of aggression to Psycroptic. Like if I think of those, I mentioned the albums that I like, but if I think of the songs that always stuck with me, Slaves of Nil off Observant, absolutely fantastic. And then Forward to Submission on the Inherited Repression, that to me is just, I mean, that's perfection. Like if I had discovered Psycroptic prior to that, and I really liked Observant, but if I think of the one song that made me really fall in love with the band and made me a lifelong fan, it was Forward to Submission.
Yeah. And that whole album, like Inherited Repression, I think to me that was us writing for a live audience. Like that was us at our peak of doing that. Like we were touring so much at the time, like off Observant. I think the 12 months following the release of that album, we did like 180, 190 shows in a year, and it was like we'd honed our craft live. And I think when we started writing the Inherited Repression, it's like, let's just write fucking angry mosh pit fucking madness songs, and that's, that song's full of bangers, like, Euphoria in Asia. It's so much of it's just got that real sort of bouncy tempo, bouncy groove, and it was just written for that. Which I will say, you got the bouncy groove, but you guys never went away from being technical. I mentioned this when I heard the new singles. You guys are extraordinarily technical band. I could not in a fucking million years, if I played every single day of the week for 10 hours, soaked through my fucking shorts and my underpants, I would not ever be able to do what you guys do. And I don't think there's many that could. But I think where you've always stood out for me above every other technical death metal band or technical band, you always write in service of the song first. Song first, everything else is secondary. So you're not trying to show off how well you can play your instruments. No one is trying to show off how good Dave is as a drummer. Like, he knows he's a good drummer. Joe knows he's a good guitarist. You guys are writing songs in the main, and that's what you lead with. Yeah, definitely. But I just think like Joe's just a fucking master when it comes to writing songs. Like, there's so much of our back catalogue now. I mean, obviously back in the early days we did have something to prove, and we were fucking flat out. But Joe just kind of, he knows when to go and when to stop, if that makes sense. Like, he knows that if he's just going flat out all the time, same with Dave, like if everything's just full fucking psycho the whole time, it gets dull, and nothing seems like, nothing's got that wow factor after you listen to the first song, because it's all just insanity, and you're like, oh, well, these guys can obviously play, but I can't remember a fucking thing of it, whereas Joe, I think Joe writes in a way that he knows how to still keep that wow factor, but still keep someone banging their head along with it.
There is a fine art to being able to leave space in a song at exactly the right time. Like one of the best examples to me that's more well known, but to me is like that's the textbook of what I'm talking about when I say this. The riff to Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, just the way that it's like da 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 da. It just that linger at the end of the riff. It takes it from being like a relatively ordinary AC/DC rock and roll riff to being something that kind of takes on a bit of a its own, a bit of a thuggish, bit of a sinister tone to it. And the best bands in extreme music, whether it's super technical death metal or whether it's black metal, they're the ones that know exactly where to leave that space, because it builds that tension just a little bit, so that when they hit you with the next part, it makes that much more impact.
Yeah, sometimes all the song needs is to ring out on an open chord.
Yeah.
But it's got to just be done at the right time,
Yeah. At the right time for the right amount of time. It's the same in movies. I was talking to Alan Averill about it yesterday, and we were off on a different track, so I never got into detail with him about it. But I mean, if I think of movies today, one of the things I hate the most about modern cinema is the fact that everything feels so rushed. Somebody once explained it to me and said, like, the directors now are being told they need to, they basically need to film, direct, and edit for the TikTok generation. And I absolutely fucking hate it. There's a distinctly different feel to a movie that came out in 1995 versus a movie that came out in 2025. The scenes don't breathe as long as they used to. The characters aren't allowed to breathe like they used to. And it feels like, if you think of a modern movie, it feels like nothing in the film is no character, nothing in the movie lives in the absence of the main character or the character that you're watching, whereas it was not the case on the greatest of the great 80s and 90s movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, people just don't have the fucking attention span that they used to. Well, young people at least anyway, I mean, it's like with so much music now, it's all written, so many bands are just writing singles. They're fucking leaving the album behind even these days, which is fucking insane to me.
How do you, as a frontman, keep the attention of the audience in 2026 versus what you might have done in 2006? Because there's no question that audiences just simply aren't, from my observation, they just don't pay as much attention anymore to the band as they used to.
I think you just got to be in their face, and that's the way I've always performed. I've always been an intense performer. You try to engage the crowd, like, I mean, it might be cliche, but there's the whole, show me your fucking fist in the air and all, try to keep them hyped up, keep them engaged, keep them being part of the show. And you don't ask them for things. You tell them what they have to do. You don't say, I want to hear you scream. You say, fucking scream for me, cunts. You know what I mean?
Would you mind screaming, guys?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and that's how I've always, approached it. Sort of, as soon as I step on the stage and I've got the mic in my hand, it's like, I have to be the biggest personality in the room. And there's no doubt about it. It's like, I've got to be in charge here. And so if you want to be in charge, you don't ask for what you want. You tell people what they have to do. And I find if you've got that sort of attitude, and I mean, you have to have when you're on stage performing, you have to have an ego. You have to have a certain, bit of arrogance about you that they're going to respond, because if you're not confident with it, they're not going to respond. And
where did you learn that from? How did you formulate that philosophy?
Just watching the greatest. I mean, I think where I learnt the most on a tour was about being a frontman was when we did Summer Slaughter back in 2008. We had Black Dahlia Murder. So Trevor was a fucking amazing frontman. He was, great to watch. You had Sven from Aborted. He was fucking absolutely killing it at the time. You had Maurizio from Cataclysm, Peter from Vader. So I had all these fucking amazing frontmen to watch. I mean, we were on second of 10 bands or something like that. And I was just watching how everybody did it and, everybody's approach. And it's just like seeing how the crowd responds to them. And it's like, it's the more intense you are, it seems to just respond more. And it's just like, you can have people that are pretty quiet dudes backstage, but you see them get on the stage and they're the biggest personalities. And it's like, it's because that's how it has to be. Well, as far as I'm concerned anyway. You have to command your audience, and that's why they call you a front man, because you're front and center. You're fucking in charge.
And a lot of people miss that, I think. I think firstly, a lot of people miss how difficult it is to actually be a frontman. It's not just about doing vocals, and they can't draw the distinction either between, like, somebody that just stands there singing is, that's fine. It's fine for an album. It's not fine for a show. The shows we all remember that we go, man, fuck, that was incredible. I remember exactly where I was when this person said that, or when he did that. Exactly. Those are the personalities. It comes from the personalities.
Exactly. And I mean, they're always commanding. Frontmen, the greatest of them, they are always commanding people. And so, I mean, people can like say whatever they want about, people on stage, like, oh, fuck, he seems like he's arrogant or whatever. But it's like, no, he's just doing his job really fucking well, And it's just,
If you had to count down top 5 favorite frontmen of all time?
It's a hard one. I'd definitely throw Trevor Black Dahlia Murder in. He was a massive influence to me back when I was coming up, because we did a lot of touring with them. So he was great. Sven from Aborted as well. We've done a lot of touring with them. I've learned a lot from watching that man play. Then you got guys like Phil Anselmo. Obviously, Pantera were never a band to me that were like, I was never a ginormous fan of. It's not that I didn't like them, but for some reason, I was just always, when they were sort of in their heyday, I was more into bands like Morbid Angel, Incantation. I'd sort of bypassed them and went more for the flat out death metal. But watching videos of him, there was no two ways about it. He in his heyday, he was the fucking best of the best. As a front man. I mean, you got Hetfield as well. Amazing. I think another one would be probably Dave Vincent back. I mean, you listen to just all the early live stuff. I mean, he was a fucking amazing vocalist, but he had some sort of persona about him, you know what? And you'd see the pictures of him, and he was all fucking ripped and had bitches hanging off him and stuff. And you're like, fuck, man, this dude's got it happening, Yeah. I think it was in the Blessed Are the Sick cover where they've got all the fucking babes hanging off and stuff. And
I remember that very well.
Yeah, you're like, how can you fuck with these dudes?
No. Have you seen live footage from that era?
No, I've got that Entangled in Chaos CD, and you fucking oath, man. You hear them on that. That would have been just after Domination came out.
That was just after Domination, yeah.
And man, fuck, those dudes are on fire on that CD.
Yeah.
Absolutely on fire.
I'll send you, when we're done, I'll send you a clip of that I discovered by, just random, YouTube excursion. Yeah. I discovered a clip of them doing the Ancient Ones back in 1992. And dude, the amount of fucking just everything about it was just great. Like you could the passion and the aggression and the manliness, just everything about it was perfect, absolutely perfect. And it helps people understand. Like if you see that, you really can understand. Like when these guys came onto the scene, like why people were getting so passionate about them. It's like there was nothing like this. No one had ever seen anything to this degree. There were a lot of great bands of that era, but these guys were a step above.
Yeah. There's no, like, you can't fuck with all that early Morbid Angel stuff. Like that shit is the sickest shit ever. I mean, you listen to an album like Covenant or fucking Altars of Madness. Shit's the fucking greatest there ever was.
Yeah. And on the topic of Pantera, I mean, I don't think there's any question that they would never have been the size that they became if Terry Glaze had still been their vocalist. I mean, no disrespect to Terry Glaze, but Phil Anselmo put a person. He kind of was the missing piece of the personality pie that made them as special as they were.
Oh, exactly. And I mean, there's no fucking with him. No. Him back in those early days, you watched the fucking that Monsters of Rock video and stuff, and it's like there was fucking no one else doing the shit he was doing back then, you know? And still now, just
I agree.
Fucking insanity.
You're a fan of Scour, are you not?
Yeah. I'm mates with the dudes. Yeah,
that last Scour album, holy shit! It's always inspiring to me when I listen to it, because I think to myself, like, Phil is in his late 50s. And this is he's turning out.
I know. Yeah, because I'm mates with Jarvis, the drummer, and I sent him a message when the first single came out. I'm like, dude, this shit's fucking gnarly. And yeah, he sent me one of the promo links to. He's like, check the album out. He said, Phil's fucking off his head on it. It's like, he's like, he sounds amazing. So yeah, man, it's fucking killer shit.
Just on the Monsters of Rock, that there's a line that he says just before they played Domination, and I've always loved it so much because it's such a Phil Anselmo thing to do, and it's there's not a lot of people that could get away with doing it and it having the impact that he has it, because a lot of it's in the delivery. But when he says right before they go into Domination, he shouts to the audience, he goes, I mean, to a Russian crowd as well, he goes, this is a lesson in hardcore from the Lone Star State. You know, people just go fucking ballistic.
Another person I reckon who's a fucking amazing frontman as well is Daniel from Marduk.
Oh yeah.
Come to think of it, fuck, I've seen them so many times. We've been lucky enough to play festivals and stuff, and then they've played down here. But have you heard that Beast of Prey live at Brutal Assault where they do Panzer Division?
No.
Oh, there's an album, a live album called Beast of Prey on Spotify.
I think I skimmed through it, but I don't think I've actually ever sat down and listened to the album end to end.
So it was I think it's 2016. They did Panzer Division live at Brutal Assault, and I mean that album's, I think it's only like 29 minutes or something to begin with, and it cuts down to about 24 minutes because it's so fucking fast. But just the way Daniel is between songs, like, he's just so fucking intense when they're playing, and he's like, you keen for this shit? And they're sort of like, and he's like, okay, fair enough then. And just yeah, and I'm just like, when I first listened to it, I'm like, fuck, man, this shit is gold. Like, that dude just does not give a fuck. Like, he's the sickest black metal vocalist.
I saw him at the Underworld, and he introduced the band after the first song by going, London, you fucking cowards. Like, into the next song.
Oh man, I fucking absolutely love it.
As we're talking about Pantera, here's a question I've never asked anybody, and I've always been curious about it. But obviously, you had, Dimebag and Vinny and Pantera. You got that, brother connection, drummer and guitarist, brotherly connection. Yeah. What is the connection like between David and Joe? Like, how do those two guys work together? Because I mean, talent-wise, they're absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah,
but how is it as an observer seeing them work together, seeing them operate together in the band?
Oh, I mean, they work together very well. I mean, I think when Joe writes a lot of the Psycroptic stuff, I think he just knows what Dave is going to do anyway. So he can. I mean, Joe's really good with knowing, I think, what we're all going to do. He's kind of got a good been working together for so long. But those two are really good in the way that as well they do a lot of stuff where they'll go in, well, not so much now, but they used to hit record a lot of the time and they used to jam, and then they'd go back and they'd sort of cut up and go, all right, well, this is fucking killer. And just a lot of the improv jam stuff, those two dudes were locked in so well. But like live, they just fucking play so well together. Yeah, I mean, we don't write in a room much anymore, so there's not that. But yeah, I mean, in the studio as well, I mean, Joe's always producing Dave, so he's always really good at sort of, guiding him through stuff. So I don't know, there is always a certain chemistry, I think. I mean, the style that they both play in as well, as a guitarist and a drummer, they always just seem to work well together. Like, they've both got very unique styles of playing, but they just fucking gel together so well. And I mean, yeah, you see it with so many, like Vinny and Dime, fucking the Gojira guys, the Cavalieras, you see it so much. And and it's always people that have got their own unique style of drumming and playing guitar, but they do just mesh so well together because I guess they figure out how to play together from a young age.
Mm-hmm. Something that I must ask you, because it has such a big impact on how Pulse of Annihilation has ended up sounding. The expanding relationship and influence with Jason Kaiser. How did that come about? And how did he contribute to the Pulse of Annihilation?
Well, so initially it came about having young kids. For me, I just couldn't always do every tour, and so Kaiser stepped in for a few tours for me here and there when I couldn't do them, which was great. He also crewed for us a lot, so we'd have tours where he'd be out driving for us or doing merch for us or singing for fucking Ingested when we were touring with them, or he'd be singing for Hollow World when we were touring with them. So there was a massive period there where he just seemed to be on tour with us all the time, even if or he was singing because I couldn't go. And then, so when it came to doing the Watcher of All EP that we did during COVID, I think Dave sort of said, how'd you feel about getting Kaiser to do backing vocals on a song? I was like, fuck, why don't we just do a dual vocal attack? It's like a 2-track EP. I'll just put him in on the whole thing. It'll be fucking fun. Why not? So we did it. It worked really well. And then with Divine Council came up, I was like, our voices together, they sound great. He tours for me when I can't. So fuck it, let's just do it on an album. And a lot of people had a hard time with it. They were like, why are they doing this? They're never going to do 2 vocals live. Why are they got him on the albums? And we're kind of like, because we want to, because it sounds cool, because it's fun, because he's part of the team. Like, why the fuck not? I mean, I'm not that arrogant that I think, I'm the front man. It's only me, rah, rah, rah. It's like, no, if he can add something cool to it and another depth to it, and he's out on the road, singing for me sometimes anyway, it's like, fuck it, let's just do it. And we did that album and it sounded great. I wrote all that album. And then, well, as I think we spoke about last time, I got really sick for a long time. And that was on the tail end of Divine Council release. So I only did one tour off that, off that initial touring cycle. And Kaiser he dropped everything and jumped in and did all the touring for that for me, and I'm fucking forever grateful for it. He stepped in when, I was going through a very hard time. And so then when it came to doing Pulse of Annihilation, we're like, all right, let's go again. Let's have him on the albums. He's basically just part of the team now. But this time around, he said to me, how would you feel if I wrote a couple of the songs? I said, yeah, fuck yeah. And so No Blade of Grass was one of his. So the second single we did. But the way we work it, like, a lot of people think, oh, fuck, they must have, all these conversations on who sings where and how they're going to do it. But it's actually, like, it's a really simple process we do with it. So it's pretty much the songs I write, I'll sing the whole song as if I'm just doing it. It's just me on the album. Then I'll send it to Kaiser and he'll sing synced up to me as well. And so we've basically got 4 tracks of me. There'll be like 2 different high tracks, 2 different low tracks, and then we get the same of Kaiser. And then me and Joe get to go into the studio and we get to have some real fun with it. And it'll be like, all right, Kaiser's vocals sound really good. He's got that more, brutal death metal sort of thing. So there's certain riffs that his vocals will work better to be in the lead. Whereas the more thrash stuff or the faster shit, mine will suit better in the lead. Or if it's like a melodic chorus, my vocals are a bit more pitched than his are. So we'll put mine in the front there. And we just played around with it until it kind of sounded really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's a pretty straightforward process, but I just think it adds so much depth to it. And it's that whole thing of now, if, when the band's touring, they don't get both the front men at once, but they'll get one of us,
Well, I was going to say, why not have, if you're in a situation where you can do it, like, say you guys are playing the States, why not have both frontmen? I've always loved the dynamic of two frontmen on stage.
We did joke about it, and we were like, if we did it, we'd have to have the fucking, flat peak hats outside was,
Dude, well, I'm sure you've seen Despised Icon. Despised Icon have got two vocalists, and it's fucking cool. I love it.
We toured with those guys years ago in the States, and I mean, they do it well. I think their music lends themselves to it. I mean, I just don't think it's our stick with Psycroptic. And me and Kaiser had that conversation. We're like, I don't think we could do it live. There was actually a show. So we did a North American tour late last year, and I couldn't do the first half because I was actually moving house, and Kaiser couldn't do the second half because he had commitments in Japan with Origin. So we were kind of like, all right, well, let's just split it down the middle. And he did the first half, I did the second half. And so there was the show, I think it was in Toronto, where I got there and he was there as well. So there was both of us there, and we were kind of like, who's singing tonight? Because we're not both doing it. And I sort of said to him, well, do you mind doing it so that I can stand back in the crowd and have some beers and watch my own band play? I'll be merch guy for the night, and they were like, all right, cool, fuck yeah. So I'm in the crowd having a few beers, watching Psycroptic play, and I was like, this is the fucking coolest thing, because who the fuck gets to do this, And then some of the crowd, I was at merch, and I'm like slinging T-shirts after they played. And then there was a few fans who were like, hang on, what the fuck's going on here? You're the other Jason. You're Jason Peppiatt from Psycroptic. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why the fuck weren't you singing? Why are you here doing merch? And I'm like, we're switching over tonight, so I just wanted to be merch guy and watch the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a cool experience. It was a lot of fun, I mean, me and Kaiser get along fucking great.
Yeah. So there's no jostling for position in the band.
No, fuck no. Far from it. I mean, I was saying in an interview the other day about, people were asking me about it, but like I've had some weird messages when he's been out on tour singing, where people send me messages and they'll be like, I went and saw Psycroptic last night. It was cool, but it would have been fucking so much better if you were there. Like, he's not as good as you. And it's like, I don't want to fucking hear that. I want you to hit me up and say, dude, I went and saw Psycroptic with Kaiser singing last night. Fuck, he's good. You made the right choice to have him in when you're not there, because it's like, I want my boys to do well. Like, I want them to sound great. I don't want them to be out there sounding like subpar or anything like that. So like, there's no competition. There's no ego between any of us. We're all mates, and we're all just, trying to have fun with it, and, trying to get this band, going as well as we can.
No one's ever messaged you and say, hey, Jason, I didn't realize you grew your hair.
I did try growing my hair last year. It was I failed miserably.
Yeah, those days are well and truly behind me, mate. I had long hair until 2000, New Year's 2000. The morning after, I'd been dragged to some fucking atrocious party in Johannesburg, and when I woke up that morning, I had fucking hair in my mouth, and I was like, this is the last. This shit's coming off.
Yeah.
I can't do this anymore.
I've grown my hair long 3 times, and every time it gets like just past my shoulders, and I'm like, I fucking hate this, and I shave it.
Yeah.
I got back from Europe last year. I got out of the shower and I was brushing my hair, and I'm like, I fucking got grey beard and long hair, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're not a fucking kid anymore. You look like a fucking idiot. I took it off, and I rocked up on the North American tour, which was like a month or something later, and the boys were like, the fuck? Thought you were growing your hair long. You rocked up with a fucking skinhead. I'm like, okay, so I was listening to too much Angel Corpse.
There we go. You're listening to some of that Destroyer 666. So Pulse of Annihilation comes out July 17th. What are the touring plans when that record gets released?
So we start in Tasmania. We got 3 shows down here. Then we do full national tour of Australia with Rivers of Nile, which that's going to be really cool. Then we go out for a headlining run in Japan straight after. I think we've got 3 or 4 shows over there. And then everything's out with the booking agents at the moment for teeing up Europe, US, UK. Yeah, so basically in the next, I suppose, month or so, all tour dates should start rolling out, and then see what happens. After the album's released, there's usually offers will start rolling in as well for, shows further into next year. So I think it's going to be a busy 12 to 18 months,
Well, on this touring cycle, I don't give a fuck if I have to take off a week from work, but I will make sure that I come and see you guys and that we actually meet up in person.
Yeah, I had to hang shit on you last time when you...
No, dude, I've
or something, weren't you?
Yeah, something. There was some other reason why I wasn't there. Like something. I couldn't remember if it was work related or what.
Yeah.
If I was in South Africa, I think I was actually in South Africa. But either way, I will make sure I see you guys this time around. I won't miss it again.
We're going to be busy, I reckon.
Yeah, no, I would imagine so. I've got one last question to ask you as we wrap up. This is actually something that came through. When I do the news rant, I say people can send in their questions on Instagram. I got a question that I thought was quite interesting over the weekend, and I thought I should ask Jason this question. If you could resurrect any one band out of Australia and globally, what bands? I mean, they could be the same band, but what bands would they be?
Oh, I'd probably like to see Damaged from Australia. I never got to see them back in their heyday. Do Not Spit's a fucking killer album, and they were so iconic within Australia. So I reckon I'd love to see them resurrected, even if it was just for one show. I would have said a Bramblin, but, they got back together and they're absolutely fucking killing it. Fuck, I don't know who on the worldwide scene, though. Most of the bands I fucking grew up listening to are still kicking on, even though they're all old men these days. I know as soon as I get off here, I'm going to think of it and I'll be like, fuck.
Yeah. Australian band for me, no question, Alchemist.
Yeah.
I mean, my thoughts on that band. I was so pleased I could have Adam on, and I still get comments about that as well. Like, there's people that are going in, listening to that conversation, and then discovering Alchemist. I was like, fuck, dude, you should have seen them live. I only got to do it once, but if ever there was a band that should have been fucking 50 times as big as they were, it's Alchemist.
That used to do really well in Australia too, though. We played with them back in the old days.
Well, I saw them on the Austral Alien touring cycle, and they played a show at the Garage in London. And the Garage is a small venue. And I just remember watching them and thinking to myself, like, this sounds like a stadium-level band being pushed into a club that fits maybe 300 people. Yeah, it sounds incredible, but it doesn't sound right. And then globally, I'm stuck on that one. I'm stuck on that one as well. I don't know if there's a single band that's broken up that I can think of that I would go, that I'm desperate to see reform. Yeah. Maybe, actually, I've got one, Call of the Void. I don't know whether you know anything about them. They're Relapse, Without Relapse. I think so. But anyway, they put out 3 albums. It's like sort of verging on power violence, hardcore. It's like you could imagine when you hear them why they were on Relapse Records. But, fucking hell, man! Some of the most aggressive, just gnarly, manly shit that you'll ever hear in your life. If they could reform, I'd be very pleased. But Jason, thank you so much for your time, my man. I was like, you were saying?
Demolition Hammer, are they still going?
I don't think so.
That's a good
shot, actually.
That'd be one I'd love to see.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
All right, my man. Thank you very much for your time. Always an absolute fucking blast talking to you. And like I said, hopefully the next one we do, we're sitting face to face from each other with a beer.
Fuck yeah, we'll try and get an in-person going next year.
Hell yeah. All right. Talk to you soon.
Big man. Cheers, Brad.
That was Annihilation Pulse by Psycroptic, taken from their 9th album, The Pulse of Annihilation, put out this past weekend on Metal Blade Records. 9 albums in and still going, exceptionally strong. Make sure you check out the record on Bandcamp. I'll post the link, as always, in the description to the podcast. A big thank you to Jason Peppiatt for his time. Got to say, in the nearly 7 years that I have been doing the podcast, Jason is far and away one of my favorite people that I have ever met doing this show, and I hope that the next time that he and I sit down, we'll be able to crack us open a couple of beers. Maybe I have a few of the Psycroptic boys with us. So fingers crossed for that happening. Before we go any further, we need to take another lucky band and drag them kicking and screaming into the unsanctioned filth spotlight. And this week, the honor falls to Preliminus, a industrial blackened death metal band out of Ohio. They have got 2 EPs out. The first one was released in 2024 that was called Preliminary Illusion. They have now put out Preliminary Illusion 2 that came out officially on May the 2nd, 2026. 4 tracks. I checked them out, really enjoyed it, thought you might like it too. So for your listening pleasure, the unsanctioned filth track of the week, Radial Hysteresis. Preliminus out of Ohio, your unsanctioned filth band of the week, and that was a song called Radial Hysteresis, taken from their second EP, Preliminary Illusion 2, out now on Bandcamp. I'll post a link to their Bandcamp page in the description to the podcast, and if you go over there and you pick yourself up any music, you make sure to let them know who sent you. Likewise, a reminder that if you are in an unsigned band, you want to get your stuff heard, reach out to me on intothenecrosphere@gmail.com. Drop me a line on Instagram, Facebook, or X, or you can contact me via intothenecrosphere.com through the contact page that I have up on there. And if I like what I hear, you will join the pantheon of legends that make up the Unsanctioned Filth showcase that I do practically every week on Into the Necrosphere. A quick reminder, if you are new to the podcast and maybe you want to check out other shows that are or feature similar content to Into the Necrosphere, I am a card-carrying member of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, a conglomerate of content creators dedicated to making the simps and soy boys that permeate the metal warfare forums, along with every other shred of fucking mediocrity there is to be found in this world, sob and cry for their mothers. On a Monday, we kick off your week with another dose of Horror Wolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. Yours truly casts hexes and slays poses every Tuesday on Into the Necrosphere. Next week, I've got something very special. The first ever podcast appearance by all three the original members of Winterland. Now, as all of you know, I was supposed to speak to them at Fortress Festival. For various reasons, that did not happen. Finally managed to make it happen about a week ago, and you will get to hear the full unedited 1-hour conversation on the show next week to speed you along, to help the days pass by a little quicker. On a Wednesday, we've got your first double shot, Everything Went Black, hosted by Mike Hill from the band Tombs. We also have Iblis Manifestations, and that is hosted by Cheyenne from Trivax. Incidentally, Iblis Manifestations now drops episodes twice a week. In addition to the Wednesday interview episode, you now also have a solo episode every Sunday, so do not miss that. On a Thursday, Mike Hill returns with Necromaniacs. He is joined by his co-hosts, the Professor Jeff Kashid and the Sheriff Mike Scondado, who will soon be joining me again for another weekly news rant. We also have on a Thursday and again on a Sunday a episode, a curated tour, if you will, of the dark, weird, arcane, the occult, and the esoteric, and that is brought to you by none other than the sinister minister himself, Carl Haikara. I mentioned intothenecrosphere.com earlier. I am going to be joined very, very shortly by my very good friend Nathan Glover from Gravier. But just before we get to that, we had recorded the news rant this morning when the news broke of the L7 bassist Jennifer Finch passing away. Now, L7 isn't exactly, standard fare when it comes to Into the Necrosphere, but I have championed their music pretty much for the entirety of this podcast's existence, and with good cause. I mean, this was a band that I grew up with. I really enjoyed their music. Jennifer unfortunately passed away from a very aggressive form of brain cancer. She was only 59 years old, which is, again, in my view, way too young. But I do want to express my condolences to her friends and family. I was joking about this last week, talking about how I'd had a bit of static from a couple of people because of the rent a slatin joke that I made about Dogma. But quite honestly, I mean, my view is that bands like Dogma are actively detrimental to the cause of women in metal music, extreme music, or really any kind of alternative music. Because what they are trading on is looks and the ability to look good in fetish gear, whereas the L7 girls, going all the way back to the 90s, were demonstrating on every single record that they put out, especially Bricks Are Heavy, what real female empowerment sounds like. And if you want an example of Jennifer and the rest of L7 at their absolute best, check out a track called Diet Pill. I've spoken about it on the podcast before, but that to me is just absolutely sensational. So again, my condolences to Jennifer Finch, her friends, family, and the band. I wanted to make sure that I at least brought that up, given the fact that we hadn't spoken about it on the news rant when I had Nathan on. Because of that, I think just to to keep in line with or my current mood after having read that news, I'm not going to do the usual beat down intro to the news rant, but I do want to welcome every single one of you to sit back and enjoy as I welcome back my very good friend Nathan Glover. This is the weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment, and hang them where the world can see.
Nathan Glover from Gravier, welcome back to the podcast, my man. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Really busy, but always happy to be on. So anytime you've got something going on, it's a standing yes. I know one of these days it'll be like, I need you to bury this body, and I'll come to regret that. But until that day happens, I will still get the shovel if that happens. But standing yes.
You never know what'll happen when I finally pay that visit to Australia. So, but what's been going on? You mentioned to me offline you've got quite a few things in the pipeline, quite a few irons in the fire.
Yeah, quite a bit on. So I don't like free time. So I guess obviously we put the album out, and that's been out for a month or two now, which has gone really well. And actually, I might ask you now. You've had a little bit of time to sit with it. How what are your thoughts on the record? Did it work for you?
I love it, man. Yeah, no, absolutely love it. I can't remember whether Dan and I actually, and when I said Dan, I'm talking about Dan from No Clean Singing, whether we actually spoke about it on the recording or offline, but we were both raving about the record. And I also mentioned to you, when you first sent it to me, it's a big step up from the previous album. And I'm really happy to see how warmly it has been received across the board. I think big thing, and hopefully I can contribute to it, is that we help raise the profile of the record now and, get more people to pay attention. But yeah, absolutely love it, mate.
Yeah, no, cheers. And yeah, look, that has been the general experience that, we felt like it was a step up as well. And the response has been really good. And obviously the support from Connor and Apocalyptic Witchcraft has been really good. So by far, the best response we've had. So the next thing we need to do is go and do shows to support that. So we're just about to go back into rehearsal to get ready for Essence Festival, which is another thing that we run through the label in cooperation with our friend Dan from Perimeter Promotions and his team. We booked the opening evening for that. So
by label, of course, you mean, and apologies for the interruption, but by label you mean you're talking about Gutter Prince Cabal, correct?
I am, yes. Sorry,
rather than Gutter Prince Cabal, rather than Apocalyptic Witchcraft. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, that's right. So that's our annual live event that we put our time and energy into. 3-day festival that runs in Canberra on the October long weekend. Really, really good event. We booked the opening night to kick the festival off. So this year we've got ourselves, and we're going to try and play the new album from start to finish for the first time. So be worth showing up for, hopefully. We've got Reek Mine from Sydney, a really excellent sludge doom band. I strongly recommend. Stellar Remains, who we did their debut release for, and they seem to be doing really well, which is good. People are responding to their stuff. Gralloch, which is another up and coming band from the Sunshine Coast up in Queensland, and headlining the evening will be Reminisce from Sydney. Really good death metal band that's always excellent to see live. So that'll be our evening, and then there's the 2-day festival proper. The Amenta will be headlining that, but there's a few other bands on there too. And what I really like about the festival is it's a festival that's has a kind of diverse range of things on it, and sometimes things that you don't always know about. And it's not always strictly metal. So there'll be, there's, I guess, you've got bands like Your Mother's Disgusting Window, which is like industrial, Chief Whip, which is like industrial doom. You've got Blood and the Champagne, which is a post-punk band. Storm of Steel, which is crust punk. Making Out, which is noise drone. So there's usually a mix of stuff in between all of the metal stuff as well, but it's all that kind of like the things that would appeal to people who are into the, anything that's kind of a bit dark and weird and unconventional. So there is the capacity to be surprised, and the other good thing is that we don't do it for profit. So basically, all of the proceeds and the funds go back to the bands. Very artist first in the way that it's run. So yeah, really pleased to be part of that, and I think this year's looking like it should be a pretty solid event. The last one was great as well.
What is that racket that's going on in the background, by the way?
It's my dog. He's decided that he's going to come sit behind me and sulk.
Yeah, no, I could, yeah, because normally it's my dog that does that. So I just want to clarify that this time around the culprit does not actually belong to me. It sounds like he's stepping on like popping plastic or something like that.
It's the vinyl flooring, his claws.
Ah, right. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, we'll dress him down in just a second, but let's check out a song first and foremost. So, as always, we kick off on metalstorm.net, finest metal news website in all the land, and we are going to be checking out a new single by a band called Furtan. So it says here, Furtan present The Hierophant Way, the title of their new single. It says here, after their recent new album announcement, black metal operatives Furtan now stream the first official single called The Hierophant Way, featuring none other than James Doughton from Ne Obliviscaris. Let's hear what it sounds like. It pause there. What do you think?
Yeah, look, there's an audience for that. I'm probably not that audience. Obviously mining that sort of folk sort of style black metal. I don't know, I feel like I'd maybe be at home on, if you like some of Napalm Records catalog, that would be a good fit for you. But yeah, I like, as they say, a bit more piss in in my music.
More piss and vinegar. I've got to tell you, I'm not necessarily in that Napalm Records audience, but I really enjoyed that. It should be mentioned the song is nearly 12 minutes long. So, we've only listened to 2 minutes, 26 seconds. It could be that it turns into fucking Wimp City at some point. But yeah, well, everything I heard there, I really liked. I liked the vocals. I thought the song had enough urgency and enough grit to keep me happy, but I think they did a really good job with the melodies as well. Furtan is not a band that I am overly familiar with, but this is actually their 5th album. Their first one was a record called Niedergang that came out in 2014. They've been around since 2010. And of course, despite the fact that they now feature, or at least on this song, featured the replacement vocalist from Neo Obliviscaris, James Doughton. I say replacement because he replaced long-serving Neo Obliviscaris vocalist Zen. I thought that I think the song as a whole definitely gets a thumbs up for me.
Yeah, look, it's not even that it's soft. Like, I think it's obviously well produced and put together. And the song, as you said, is kind of not leaning into the softer side of the folky stuff. But one, I tend to like strings in music more like My Dying Bride. So the speed and the fast strings. It's not normally a combination that I necessarily love. And I think, like, yeah, again, it's that thing, needs more piss in it. Like, the production is very nice and clean. And I don't know, just for me, for black metal, I like a little bit of rough edges.
Okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. Well, it's definitely getting a thumbs up for me, but understand where you might be coming from. Now, actually, this brings me to something that I've been excited to talk to you about, and I know that you'll have some good selections here. What I am spinning this week, but let's start with what you are spinning this week. So, in the last week, what have you been listening to most?
Well, I think besides our record, as I said, we're about to start rehearsing. I'll just bring up my Bandcamp. I've also been listening to the project that Austin and myself have been working on. Getting ready for that to come out. But as far as Bandcamp goes, the new Fuming Mouth album, which just recently came out, really enjoyed that.
That's been on my list as well.
Yeah, and they kind of went, a very sort of Black Breath kind of direction. HM2, Let It Rip, Be Evil, and I was quite enjoying it. Other than that, I've been listening to the new Snorlax record, which my friend Brendan from Resin Tomb, his solo thing, really cool, sort of like black and death metal stuff.
Toxic Current is the name of the album, and that has also been on my list.
Yeah. Blood Mother, which is the guy from The Lion's Daughter. It's his new sort of ambient black metal-y sort of thing. It's kind of got that 70s horror sort of keyboards to it, but with some pretty minimal but powerful black metal, which is cool. Warning, the new Warning album, which I absolutely love, but I love watching from a distance. That's like an all-time album for me, so not a surprise. Towering, what's it called? The Ablation of Man. Really cool album. Hadn't heard them before. And the last one was one that Connor had sent me, The Unbinding by the band Soothsayer, which was, really interesting. He described it as Nagura Bungit meets Bolzer. And I think that's actually not a bad description of it. So not something you hear every day, but really, really enjoying that one.
Well, Connor has been a very busy boy signing up an awful lot of very good bands to Apocalyptic Witchcraft Records. So, I feel like this has been the year of the Apocalyptic Witchcraft return. And it's been very good to see. Obviously, The Unbinding, that's a great album. Your album was great. The upcoming Faustian record that he's going to be putting out, that is superb. So, I'm very happy to see that he's been a busy guy and that he's been, that the label's becoming more prolific because he's got great taste. Bands clearly love working with him, and we need more people like him in the scene.
Yeah, look, I agree. I actually think it's the timing of everything lining up has been really good because and I draw some parallels to yourself here, Jackie, actually, is you can tell when people have the drive and to do something and they're going to hit, you know that if they keep going, they're going to be just successful at it because they've just got that feeling. And it kind of felt that way, with Into the Necrosphere. I was like, if he keeps at it, he's going to succeed at anything that he puts his mind to. And sure enough, like a few years later, here we are, right? And you're ticking off the bucket list of anyone that you could ever wish to talk to. So it's kind of the same thing. I could tell there was just something, like I could tell Connor was about to have his moment. And through the conversations we've had, and then just looking at the upcoming slate of releases, that Lead Belcher one is shaping up to be excellent. That Immiserator one from New Zealand, really cool as well. Just with the things that he's signing up now, I can tell that like now he's ready to give it a push. He's got the drive where it will go places, and I think people will give the label its just desserts, and it'll be a good place to be. So I'm really happy for him, and obviously we're partnering to distribute the.
I was very, very happy when that happened, and I know I jokingly said that it should happen, and it was awesome to then find out a couple of days later that it actually was in the pipeline. But I think it's a great natural marriage, and I've mentioned it many times before. If I were in a label, or if I ran my own label, I would most definitely be fucking. I would be signing up half of Australia. There's just so many great bands in the scene that deserve to get more international exposure, and I'd be going buck wild on that. And that's untapped potential, an untapped gold mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm really happy for him with the Berserker announcement too, because that was obviously the first sort of band he'd worked with, and he was a huge fan of them. So it's kind of a bit of a full circle moment for him. So yeah, really pleased to see that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, on my list of things I've been listening to this past week, a couple of new releases. The new Inferno, although I've been listening to that for the better part of a month because I had the promo. And normally I don't really listen to promos that get sent to me, but I couldn't resist on this occasion. And you'll understand why when I tell you the band. Inferno, the album, The Anthropic Sophisms, On the Heights of Despair. That is a top 30 guarantee. It's not even up for debate. It is a fucking masterpiece record. It is a sequel to another masterpiece record, their previous album, Paradigma. I don't know a single person that's into the kind of music I'm into that isn't raving about that album. Another one that got released over the weekend that I really, really love, a lot more than I thought that I would, Initium Mortis by Left to Die. We listened last week to the Legion of Doom single that they put out prior to the release of the record, but the whole thing, top to bottom, is just fucking fantastic. It's, of course, covers of, old Death songs, but it is delivered with that kind of just glorious recklessness of 80s death metal, or like early 80s death metal, but with a serving of modern day, what would you call it? Balls? There's just like a testosterone to the way all of these songs are being performed, and I love it. Of course, I've been listening to the Pulse of Annihilation by Psycroptic. Great record. I often think about Psycroptic that they are such a consistent and such a reliable band that I feel like sometimes people almost kind of overlook them a little bit, because you just guaranteed when they put something out it's going to be great. So in a way it becomes kind of par for the course, and so people don't quite recognize how special Psycroptic actually are. But I think as far as Australian bands are concerned, their international profile, I would hope, is an inspiration to everybody else, from their homeland. And the fact that they continually push albums that kind of stick true to their sound, but they're always doing little things to innovate within that, I think is fantastic. And then probably a selection that will puzzle many people, and I don't know why I suddenly got hooked on this record as much as I did, but this week the album that I've been listening to perhaps most was Kill 'Em All by Metallica. And specifically everything on side 2. So Whiplash, Phantom Lord. I think Whiplash is like side 2, but yeah, Whiplash, Phantom Lord, No Remorse, Seek and Destroy, Metal Militia. I listened to those songs in succession over and over and over and over again. And sometimes it'll happen when I'm working. I don't want to listen to stuff that I'm not familiar with because it distracts me. So when you're kind of getting into the zone and you need to focus on something, you play something that you're familiar with. But I for whatever reason this week it was Kill 'Em All, and I was reminded just how fucking great all of those songs are.
Well, it's funny. Kill 'Em All is actually my favorite Metallica album. So again, it's just that thing of it's the album that has the most hits. We're going to keep returning to this theme, I'm sure, through the conversation.
Yeah.
But like those guys were just young and hungry and did it at 110%. Yeah, it was rough around the edges. Yeah, like they're always at risk of like coming off the rails, but it gives the record an energy that like later records where technically maybe the records were better, they weren't struggling. And it's the struggle that of people trying to play material that is pushing the upper limits of what they can do, but they're just so motivated to do it that gives some records that reckless energy that it just dies off once you master your craft some more. And that's always the hard thing to capture.
Yeah, I think when you get to the level that they're at, not just commercially but financially, like as individuals, I struggle to see how somebody would wake up in the morning angry enough to write a song like No Remorse if they are worth $180 million. It's a sad thing. I'm very happy that they're as successful as they are. It's very well deserved. You can say what you want about Metallica, but I mean, they came from very, very hard work, dedication, being on the road most days of the year. So from my perspective, I will never say that Metallica don't deserve their success. But unfortunately, the success comes with diminished motivation, diminished piss and vinegar. And then, as I've also previously highlighted, I feel like when you get to that level, you are surrounded by so many sycophants. There's not enough people in the studio that who will tell you, "Hey, man, that riff that did not cut the mustard," or that vocal line you just recorded, or that lyric you just wrote, that fucking sucks. That's not up to your standard. All right, let's check out another song. Februus, I believe this is how you pronounce it, unleash a brand new track entitled Suicide by Proxy. Progressive death metal one-man band Februus is streaming a brand new track entitled Suicide by Proxy as part of the forthcoming studio record Construction of Conflict. So this is an interesting one. Februis is headed up by somebody named Andreas Carlson, and Andreas is, Februis is just one of what seems like many projects that he does himself. He's got Fetus and Fettuccine, Razor Rape, Trank Wound, Well of Depression, and those are just a couple of examples. I feel like listening to the first 2 minutes of that song, I feel like there are some good ideas there, and there is clearly some very, very impressive technical know-how and capability. But this, to me, is a good example of somebody who actually would potentially benefit from being in a band setup, in a band environment where you've got people around you that can help shape some of those ideas and can help to maybe focus what is obviously, a significant amount of talent in a more productive direction.
Yeah, look, it was interesting. This one was actually on my list of things that to go and check out. So glad we've been able to have a bit of a listen to it. Yeah, look, I will say this: I'm keen to check out more just because I really, really like that artwork. Like it's something a bit different, and it's kind of, if you kind of think about it in detail, it's kind of pretty bleak. But the song itself, yeah, look, I think your feedback is probably pretty warranted there. But having said that, look, I'm probably keen just to check out a little bit more. Again, just look, I like the artwork, so keen to give it a bit more of a listen. Bands, that's why you should have a good cover, because it might give you a second crack if people don't pick it up on the first go.
He is definitely a very, very talented individual. He knows his way around his instrument. There's too many things that kind of feel like the end result of somebody sitting in their room and recording a demo. The idea is not fully formed just yet. So that's my take on it. Not bad. It's not going to get a thumbs down, but it is. It's also not going to earn a thumbs up either. So I had a question from a member of the Legion, Kat Willow on Instagram, sent me a really interesting question. She said, if you could resurrect 5 musicians to play one last show, who would it be? She mentions that one of her picks would be Pete Steele to play a double show with Typo Negative and Carnivore. Hope you like the question, with best wishes from Germany. What do you think? I have a couple of obvious ones that I would throw in immediately. Dimebag Darrell, Vinnie Paul, absolutely no question about that. I've never got to see them play. I would love to be able to do that. Warrell Dane, instant, that to me is an instant inclusion on a list like that. Again, I never got to see Nevermore, and I love Warrell's voice, so he would definitely have to be there as well. Pete Steele, I'm 100% with her. I got to see Typo Negative once. It was at least 20 times too few. But as I mull over who a potential 5th inclusion could be, who would you say?
Oh, there's so many. Yeah, look, I think Vinny and Dime would be 2 good inclusions. And then probably, look, for me, Phil Lynott from Thin Lizzy, because I'm a huge fan. Unique phrasing for his vocals, and a great bass player. So that's 3. Look, let's go with a dual bass player setup for the heck of it. Lemmy, and he can do vocals as well. I think Lemmy and Phil Lynott would be a pretty weird combo, but it could work. Maybe Jimi Hendrix.
Okay, all right. That's interesting. I was going to go with Lemmy. I would definitely put on the short list. Trying to think who else. I mean, Cliff Burton back with Metallica. That would be a very interesting one. Let's say since you've already mentioned Lemmy, I'm going to go with Cliff Burton. Reading between the lines of what you said there, I think that you interpreted the question, and I don't think you're wrong to have done so necessarily. But like, if you could resurrect 5 musicians and have them play one last show together, what would it be? Dimebag. So Dimebag, Vinny, Lemmy, Warrell Dane, Pete Steele. All 5 of those together in like a super group of fallen legends. That would be the fucking tits. Be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I guess somewhat of a sad reminder that I guess more people have passed on than, and that number's going to keep increasing. And I think even, this year we've already lost a couple of people.
Yeah, dude, I've got to tell you, it does fuck with me a little bit because, these are not all personal friends of mine, but they're people that you know from. I mean, Sean Glass, for example, we were friends on Facebook. We exchanged a couple of messages. He was somebody who would post a lot, so you see him, on your news feed quite a bit. And then all of a sudden, you start to see the messages flying around saying, "Can't believe it happened," feel so sorry for his family. And you kind of realize, holy shit, the book is closed. And where it fucks with me a bit is it reminds me, number one, of the fact that time is going to come for us all, which I don't like growing older, and I don't like thinking about it. But then the other thing, that it does remind you as well is to make sure that you're reaching out to your nearest and dearest and to your homies. You never know what's going to happen to one of your friends overnight. And I think the worst thing possible is to have to walk around with regret because you had an opportunity to talk to someone, or because you kept postponing that phone call or that message or that video call or whatever it was, and now you're never going to get a chance to do it again.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's all valid advice. But I was just reflecting, like you mentioned Sean Glass, but also Beowulf from Luddick, and most recently Mike Browning.
The Mike Browning thing, sorry to interrupt you, that actually happened I saw the news right after I had recorded last week's news rant. So again, very, very tragic.
And I feel like also that maybe the other part of it for me was that Nocturnus were probably a little bit too ahead of their time. So I guess if you're around it, at the time and you kind of knew death metal, they're kind of to an extent a little bit the unsung, the place that the key in those early Nocturnus albums have, probably has a lot of underground status, but they never maybe got the more mainstream attention that they deserve. And I guess if you look how things have progressed, you realize that what they were doing was just a little bit too ahead of its time. And maybe didn't get all the dues that it should have got. But I've made a note to go back and revisit that, and also the Nocturnus AD stuff.
Yeah. Well, again, I remember probably no less than about a year ago, I had the opportunity to interview him. And for whatever reason, there was something else that had come up. I couldn't make it happen. And then you read something like that, and it's a shitty thing to just think that something, somebody's life has just come to an end. That chapter is now closed. I was always a fan of Nocturnus. I really liked the key. I particularly liked Thresholds, even though I know Thresholds is generally not as well thought of as the key. But, I was probably about 13, 14 at the time when I discovered them. If you go back to my interview with Victor Crowley from Acheron, you'll hear us talk about Mike Browning, and I'm sure that when we have part 2, when we finally get around to recording that, that's going to come up in quite a bit of detail, given the fact that he was, he just played such a big role in Vincent Crowley's musical career. But rest in peace to him. And if there is anybody listening who is a friend or who's a family member of his, my heart goes out to you. It's very tragic news. It sounded to me like it was very sudden and unexpected, which I think is almost worse in many ways. But as you say, it's very sad that we're losing so many great men and so many great women in the scene.
Yeah, which I think also highlights it's all the more important that it's good to see young kids coming out to shows, because you kind of sometimes you look around and you go, well, we're not getting any younger, and you see the generation ahead of you starting to pass through, and you realize that you're no spring chicken yourself, and it's like this stuff lives or dies off people doing it. So yeah, I think the fact that you do see kids getting out there and that hunger for all age shows, it's just a reminder of you kind of are what you leave behind, right?
Yeah, agree. Okay, new song, End of Green. They have detailed their next full-length effort. German Gothic Doom formation End of Green will be releasing their next studio album, Ashes and Gold, on December the 4th, 2026 via Reaper Entertainment. Reaper Entertainment definitely getting ahead of the game as far as the PR and the hype for this one is concerned. To taste a first piece of the new music, give a spin to the first single title song.
My little life, are you proud? Don't be sad, I'm happy now. All is done, but it ain't right. What have I done? My endless night.
I'm going to borrow a line that you used earlier. That definitely has its audience. I am not a member of that audience.
Yeah, that makes two of us. Yeah, wasn't for me.
Yeah, look, I mean, I wanted to give it its fair dues. I do remember back when Infinity and Believe My Friend came out, their first two albums, there was a lot of hype in the Nuclear Blast catalog about it. I wasn't particularly interested in it then, and I definitely am not interested in it now. 1,000,000% see there's going to be a lot of people that are into this. Like, I can see if you're a fan of him, for example, this is going to be your jam. But for me, it's I don't necessarily share your enthusiasm for that.
Yeah, no. And I think even something like him was had a little bit more momentum to it, and maybe they've got other songs that are a little bit more fast paced than that one, but it was just kind of had one setting and didn't really move off it, at least in a little bit that we heard.
Yeah, no, to me that's that is going to earn a probably well deserved thumbs down. Again, with the caveat that it might be your speed, not mine. You mentioned earlier, and I know we've spoken about it before, but I thought just maybe giving a little bit more detail around it if you can. Your project that you're doing with Austin. How close are we to seeing that getting released?
Yeah, great question. It's mixed and mastered. It's literally just waiting on cover art, and in probably similar style to Drew Groth. Once that's ready, it's going out. We've already got the second one that we're working on, so expect that to happen at a relatively rapid pace. So it's shaped up pretty good. It'll be interesting to see what people make of it. Obviously, there's no surprise that the two of us share a love of Crowbar and unbridled violence. So what happens when you put those things together? Let's find out.
All right. Well, very much looking forward to that. And he's also a prolific young man as far as like the sheer volume of output that he works his way through over the course of a year. I told him the other day, this is actually 2026 has been quiet by his standards.
Well, I think we're going to try and work out, I guess, process-wise, how to do things quickly. So obviously, yeah, again, we're waiting for the cover art, but I guess as we move forward and do the second one, we'll try compact things down so we've got a pretty efficient process, and just write a bunch of riffs, basically. Because, yeah, that's the speed we both like to work at, but it's usually outside things that slow the train up. So it's how do we insource as much as possible so we can just keep the machine rolling.
Sick. All right. Let's get on to another song. Hesperia are streaming a new song. It says here, Los Redega, the newest preview tune from Hesperia's upcoming full-length effort, Picenum, the true Marchigian black metal renaissance, is out on August the 28th, and it has surfaced online. Let's hear what it sounds like. If around the time that Typo put out Bloody Kisses, if they had decided that they were going to do, just for laughs, a black metal project, that's what it would have sounded like. Don't you think?
Actually, that's not a bad comparison point now that you mention it.
Even the guitar production kind of has it's not a carbon copy, of course, but it even has that slight typo-ness to it. There's a typo-ness to the sound.
I did like the, I guess, that kind of primitive, sinister, slow-crawling riff, but then it just reminded me that I would probably rather listen to Cortez de Ghouls, who does that stuff, but much better.
Well, again, it's always hard to form a complete judgment when you listen to 2 minutes of a 7-minute song. But I would definitely say that I've heard enough there that my interest is piqued. Initially, when I heard the cats scratching and mowing at the beginning of the song, which I'll edit out, by the way, just so you guys don't have to listen to that intro, I thought, fucking hell, what are we up to here? And then there's the whispered vocals at the beginning. I'm not really a big fan of whispering in songs. It's very, very, very few bands that can get away with doing that properly. However, when the song actually kicks in, I think the riffing is fucking sick, especially in that second sequence that we just heard now. So when the song starts, it's cool. It's kind of got again, sort of a mid-90s atmospheric black metal vibe. And then in the bit that we just paused on now, there's a real ballsiness that's kicked in, and almost like a kind of Sabbathy doom darkness that is added. There's like an additional layer added to the song, and I think it works very, very well. So yeah, I'm going to probably give this a thumbs up, and I'm definitely interested to hear more.
Yeah, I'd give it a further listen. I guess I'm interested in the concept and the artwork, and as I said, I did like the riffing. Again, like, yeah, I could just, if it was Cultes to Ghouls, I could imagine the goblin cackles that would be echoing through it by now. So, yeah, to your point, maybe listening to 2 minutes of a 7-minute song isn't quite enough. So I will go give that one a second listen, because there's enough there where I'm intrigued.
Tell me something. How have you found the release quality in 2026? Like, what is your, if you know, you don't have to obviously commit to bands that you're including on your top 10, but you know, how's your best of list shaping up at the moment?
Yeah, look, this year's kind of been a weird one. There's been good stuff, but overall I've found it a bit slow, but like peppered with a couple of like really big releases. Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not going to be too surprised if there's a couple from Apocalyptic Witchcraft on that list at the end, because yeah, again, he's just been signing some really, really good releases that have gelled with me the right way. So let's see how many make it. But yeah, there's definitely a few of the crop of his new releases that are in consideration.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that you felt it's slow. There's been weekends that have gone by where I would look at it and go, wow, there's nothing really coming out this weekend that I'm particularly interested in hearing. But if I look at how my list is shaping up, and as I've mentioned before, I'm keeping a running tally this year so that I'm kind of constantly calibrating and revising. I mean, right now, the list is up to, in terms of contenders, the list is up to 25. And as I look across the 25, it's very, very difficult to think of which ones I'm gonna drop. Like the barrier to entry on my list is very, very high. And again, it won't come as a surprise when I mention some of the inclusions, but the new Mesotheist album, Depinta, what a masterpiece. Doodsvanger, Within the Flesh, fantastic. An album that I continually harp on about, but I would really strongly urge anybody who has slept on it to go back and listen. Arrogant Destructor, The Old Spirit Remains. That is fucking brilliant. Aversio Humanitatis, To Become the Endless Static, also brilliant. And then, of course, you've got the stalwarts like Mayhem, Immolation, Neurosis, all putting out albums this year. Absolutely top tier stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I reckon I would struggle to come up with 25. But maybe I've gotten harder to please in my whole age.
I'll send you my list. I'll send you my working list after this, and you tell me what you think.
Yeah, and look, I'm listening to music all the time. I guess and maybe that's part of it. I've got obviously the playlist that we update through the label. I'm always listening to stuff, and just like I do that purposefully so that I have to go and listen to stuff, and it keeps me from stagnating. But there's just a huge amount of volume that's always coming through. So I guess maybe you get like a bit fatigued too. So yeah, that barrier to entry of like what excites you gets a bit harder.
Yeah, no, that's true. All right. Well, one that I know is already generating much buzz amongst the Legion. Veilburner have announced their 9th long player. That's due out in the autumn. And it says here, Veilburner have disclosed details on 2 tracks in what will be their 9th full-length installment. It's entitled All That Glimmers Is Gloam. Set for official release on October the 12th via Transcending Obscurity. And of course, we've had Veilburner on the podcast twice now. Potentially, we'll have to get them back on again to discuss this record. And the single they've released that we're going to listen to is a track called Vitriolic Hiss.
The last couple of Veilburner albums have taken a very interesting creative pathway for me, because I feel like, and this was especially evident on Longing for Triumph, Reeking of Tragedy, they're kind of going more avant-garde, but more traditional at exactly the same time. Like the riffing and stuff like that has this crazy dissonance, but it's increasingly more grounded in like almost a Meshuggah kind of groove. And then at the same time, you've got Mephisto Deleterio on vocals, and he's very open about the fact that he uses his voice as an instrument. He's just going fucking crazy, and I love it, because I never know what to expect. But at the same time, whenever I turn on a new Veilburner song, there's always like that familiarity as well. Like, okay, I'm sort of back in there. I'm back in their world now. Show me what you got, kind of thing.
Yeah, I enjoy Veilburner. Just a band that's always trying to do something different, and it is always going to be interesting. They just kind of think outside the box. So whether it's the weirder and wackier elements that you get into, or like the underlying metal parts of it you get into, or the mix of both of them, they're always going to serve up something interesting. And again, I think this is going to be no different. And yeah, look, Transcending Obscurity is one of those labels that sometimes they will drown you in volume, and sometimes some of that volume is like not always a winner, but like generally they've always got a couple of like really strong releases every year. So and the ones that are worth sticking around for are generally really, really good death metal stuff. So Veilburner's one you can say you watch too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's going to be interesting to hear more about the story, behind the record, and everything that kind of goes into it, because their attention to detail always blows my mind. Like there's so much that goes into the making of the album, but not just the making of the album, but the telling of the story. And that's also always one of the things that I find particularly fascinating. I do find sometimes it's almost hard to keep up with it, because it's, it goes so deep into some of the occult themes that they talk about that I'm kind of sitting there going like, you need to bring me up to speed just a little bit with the basics of what you're talking about here before you go into the high level stuff. But yeah, I love it, and I'm always super excited about whatever it is that they do, because I know if nothing else, it's going to be different to anything else that you're hearing out there.
It's almost like every album needs to be accompanied by like a grimoire full of lore, just 100%. So you can 100%. Study up.
On that note, let's head over to the porcelain bowl of reckoning, because, my friend, it is time for the Swirly of the Week. No. You like? This week's Swirly goes to Green Party activist and certified twerp Finn Newton, who last week took it upon himself to publicly attack a small owner-run record store in Wakefield, Yorkshire called Hellraiser Records. Now, the proprietor's crime was that she dared to have a conversation with a local councillor and another member of his political party after they approached her to discuss how they could support small businesses in the town. So this was kind of a standard, politician going down the high street, doing some door knocking. They came up to her, asked her about how they could support her business. She spoke to them. And as they are prone to do nowadays, and, for American listeners and probably Australian listeners too, UK politics isn't nearly as performative as the circus that you see or the circus you see stateside. But they do use social media a fair bit, especially nowadays. So anyway, Hellraiser Records, owned by a lovely lady named Sheridan. She has spent nearly 32 years building a very respected independent business. She has never, ever been politically outspoken. She's never been politically active in any meaningful way whatsoever. But the mere fact that she dared to speak to these, or dared to engage in conversation with these counselors when they approached her, was enough to send little Finn into a spiral of self-righteous outrage.
After he saw a photograph posted on social media by the politicians, like I said, Finn jumped onto Google and left Hellraiser Records a 1-star review, declaring that the shop was, quote unquote, no longer safe for people like him. So it didn't matter that these are not fringe political figures. Like, she didn't welcome in fucking hood-wearing members of the KKK. Finn was nevertheless completely and utterly aggrieved. In his opinion, or as far as he was concerned, Hellraiser Records had failed his moral purity test, and they deserved to be punished. Now, Sheridan, the owner, posted a really, I would actually say, quite moving clip where she kind of explained the situation, and you could see that Finn's actions had really shaken her.
Morning, everybody. I've just come on. I know it's another video, but I just want you to listen to this because I'm really upset about it. On Saturday, I was stood in the back in the kitchen, and when I got shouted out to say that somebody had come to see us, and when I came out, I'm sure some of you have seen it. The council had come into the shop with Richard Tice, who I knew I recognised him off the telly, but I'm not into politics, so I don't really know who he is, other than it was obviously something to do with reform. His opening words were to me were, "I've come to talk to you about the future of the centre, Sheridan, and wanted your thoughts on it, and what would you like to see happen?" So obviously I spent a few minutes with him talking, explained what I wanted for the centre and how I felt about Wakefield in general. And so I've been there such a long time. And as they were leaving, Carl just said, Carl Johnson, where is the leader of the council, just said, "We've taken some pictures, Sheridan." Okay. And I said, okay, I needed to get on with my day. Presuming they would go around lots of other businesses, and I didn't really give it a second thought. That I haven't seen the pictures, but I didn't stand and pose for one. However, it seems I've made a really big mistake, apparently from even letting them in the shop, because yesterday we received a 2-star review on Google from somebody called Finn Newton, and it wasn't a review of the shop, it was a review at his disgust that he had been in the shop and they had been in, and he felt betrayed because they were in, and we apparently were not trying to get them out of the shop.
Again, like I said, she's an independent, shopkeeper, a small business owner in a country that isn't particularly friendly towards small business, and she services a niche that you also wouldn't particularly call cash flush. So anything that could happen that would impact her business, that directly impacts her livelihood. She, to her credit, expressed that very eloquently on the clip. As you can expect, the backlash against Finn was predictably severe. And to his own credit, he did actually delete the review, and he posted an apology, when the heat got a little too much for him to bear. Now, 2 things there are worth mentioning. Firstly, it turns out that Finn actually stood for election himself. And if you're looking at this on YouTube, you'll see the picture that I found of him. He stood, as a Green Party candidate in Wakefield. And he lost, as I understand it, to the very councillor who called into Hellraiser Records. Second, and for me, this is the more important point, his apology actually misses the central issue, in that Finn explains that seeing a senior member of the political party, by the way, so everybody knows is Reform, seeing a senior Reform figure at the shop made him fear for the livelihoods of his girlfriend and mother, because according to him, Reform wants to end working from home. Now, Reform have argued that council staff and the parts of the public sector should return to office. You might think that's a good or a bad policy. That's entirely up to you. But that's not the same thing as proposing a nationwide ban on working from home that is going to cost people their jobs and their livelihoods and leave people homeless. So, Finn's interpretation of the policy kind of feels a little bit disingenuous in that apology that he extended. And even if his fears were entirely genuine, it still doesn't justify what he did. Because in this democracy that people like him are so passionate about protecting, he kind of has to understand that you're going to encounter from time to time people whose political views differ from your own.
The owner of Hellraiser Records didn't endorse a manifesto. She didn't campaign for a political party. She didn't put reform leaflets into customers' bags. She had a conversation with a democratically elected representative who spoke to her about her business. That's it. And the difference between Finn and people like Sheridan from Hellraiser Records is that nobody is going to try and destroy Finn's livelihood because he stood for the Green Party. Nobody is organizing a one-star review campaign against any businesses who happen to employ Green Party supporters. Yet Finn was perfectly willing to damage a small independent business that has spent more than 3 decades serving the community because its owner committed the unforgivable sin of speaking to politicians that he doesn't like. So fair play to him for apologizing. That was the right thing to do, but apologies don't erase actions. And unfortunately, my problem here is with the mindset rather than the actions. So Finn, on this occasion, despite your apology, you must step up to the porcelain bowl of reckoning and take your dunking like a man. And that, my friends, was the Swirly of the week. So what are your thoughts on Finn and his behavior? I mean, do you see this kind of bullshit happening in Australia?
Look, I think you see it all around the world to some extent, but maybe just to clarify, because obviously I tried to read up on the scenario while you were going through it. Would I be right in saying that Wakefield's not exactly like a massive city?
No, it's
tiny. Like a local town, right?
Yeah.
So I would assume that it's pretty normal for political candidates to just like canvass the town basically and walk around and shake hands with everyone, all the local businesses and people.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fairly standard thing, Somebody who won election at in the council, they'll take somebody from the party, and it's photo ops more than it is anything else. But they'll walk the high street, go into the shops, and go, how can we help support your small shop or your small business?
Yeah, and this is a fairly standard thing, right? Like all of the parties, who are running generally are going to do the same thing. Now, short of it being like Sir Oswald Mosley with like 50 people in black shirts like marching through the town, probably every one of the candidates who's running is going to do that, and he could have done that himself. So look, I think it's just this thing of like, to your point, where when you go to the shops and buy something or buy a newspaper or the bus driver that drives you around, you don't give them a full background check of everything that they think and do. And there tends to be this thing where whatever her beliefs may or may not have been, which it just sounds like he was massively overreacting to someone like a local candidate just shaking hands and kissing babies, which all of them could do and will do at some point, and just kind of being an emotional vandal and throwing the furniture, right? You're just using whatever power you've got to cause damage to someone. Not really in line with like the nature of what happened. So yeah, look, an apology was very much due because, as you know, being into loud music, there's not a lot of money in it. So he's just hurting local business, which is not helping his case. And I think just forgetting that, like, we all have to live next to each other. Now, it's one thing, like, if I throw a brick through your window, okay, be mad, right? I'm causing you harm. But like this imagined catastrophizing where I felt unsafe because I saw some people, like, I hate to tell you, but when you step foot outside of your house, you're going to see people who you don't like or don't think the same things as you. Unless they're trying to harm you or do something, you choosing to do that is not doing whatever you think your cause is any favors. So look, he was right to apologize. It sounds like he maybe missed the reason why, but look, I will say this on the flip side of it: people can do dumb and stupid things, and these days an apology can be hard to come by. As much as you can give him some grief and probably well deserved. We also need to have some room to let people take their licks and move on. But yeah, not a good look, right?
No, definitely not. And look, he instead of a triple dunk, we downgrade him to a double dunk, but he gets dunked.
No, we'll give him a triple, but if he wants to come back later and have a beer and be normal, you just go, okay, cool.
That is, I think, a very important point. This whole idea that people no longer want to inhabit the same space as folks that they disagree with
it is, I think, very easily one of the most toxic traits that I have seen emerge in the West in my lifetime. And I don't think that's over exaggeration at all. It's definitely the preamble to very, very major civil conflict.
Yeah, it's not positive. And look, I think we need to start dealing with people. It's not really a politics issue. Like, I don't see it as a politics issue necessarily. It's like a behavioral one, right? It's like, if you're, more on the conservative side of things, that's fine. You can have your opinion, right? But if, like, you come in and, I don't know, say something offensive to someone and do it on purpose, it's like, I'm going to be angry with you, not because you're conservative, it's because you're being an asshole. And when you stop being one, we'll have a normal conversation, apologize, we'll shake hands, just like, be normal. And same thing if you're, like, yeah, as you said, like a raging environmentalist, and you're like, I don't know, throwing paint on a shop's window because they serve steak. It's like, I'm going to be mad at you, not because you're an environmentalist and you don't think people should eat meat. It's because you're being an asshole. Like, if you stop doing that and just be like, I don't want to do that, I'm not going to do it, and I'm going to advocate for the policies I want, cool. We'll shake hands, have a coffee, and be normal. As soon as you start behaving like a normal person, things are okay. It's when you act like a maniac that, like, people are going to look at you. And it's actually got nothing to do with your political opinion. It's just got to do with the fact that you just, like, not being a nice person.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. I don't know why people struggle with that. It's got nothing to do with your politics. It's just like, you are acting wild in a place that, like, most people don't operate at.
Well, brother, it was a pleasure to talk to you as always. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Anything that you want to remind folks that they need to check out before we wrap up?
I will send you the links for the Essence Festival website and tickets in case anyone's interested in reading a bit more. Probably just the other thing of note is, we're partnering with Sadist Records from Denpasar, so over in Indonesia. The span of Gutter Prince Cabal was to look after our region, so not just Australia, New Zealand, but Asia. Insular markets and can be hard to get into, but we've managed to partner with Sadist, who's got a strong track record, which will help us sort of open some doors. They've got some really good stuff over there, so we're going to try and get it more well known. But we're also going to partner with them on releases as well. So our next release in the pipeline is going to be a co-release with Sadist for a band called Shonhead. Who like a atmospheric black metal band, not too dissimilar to Deciduous Forest. So look, that'll be really exciting. I think it'll open some of the good stuff that Indonesia's got going on to the wider world, and hopefully make it easier for us to, Indonesia are a close neighbor of ours, so hopefully get a bit more travel and bands sort of connecting and playing both ways. But still early days, but really excited for that.
Sick. Dude, thank you very much for your time. Legion, thank you very much for sticking around until the very end. We're going to wrap up with a classic. Might have mentioned it earlier on in the podcast. If you don't recognize the song, you've stumbled onto this one by mistake. But in the meantime, whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.
prevail. You got the Lord who never fail. Spook is listening from the ground, raining all your metal sound. Hear the cry of war, louder than before. With his sword in hand, to control the land. Crushing mental strength on this frightening night. Fall to your knees for the blessed war. Fall to your